Hello everyone, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating this card for you here today using the gorgeous Lovely Layers Apple Barrel die set. This is in true Lovely Layers style, a wonderful die set that allows you to create these really awesome dimensional layered images. I am going to start off here with my Bitty Buzz cutter and I'm going to cut the barrel out of some white cardstock. So the two main pieces of the barrel will be cut from white. So that first piece is the main layer, the back layer of the barrel, and then this piece here is going to form the front of the barrel. So now that I've got those two pieces cut out, I'll just set those aside. I'm just showing you how the die embosses the paper with all the details as well. I'm cutting my little apples from some red cardstock. I'm going to cut a bunch of those and set them aside. And once I'm done, and I love that these have, you can cut 2 apples at a time, which really speeds up your die cutting. I'll set those aside. And now I'm going to die cut the little apple blossoms. And again, this is a double die so that you can cut 2 flowers or 2 blooms with 1 pass, which is genius. I love all of that, those embossed lines and details you get on there as well. And then I'm cutting out some little leaves from green cardstock here and the little stems for the apple tops. And once I have those die cut, I'm just setting all of these little bits aside so that I can do some ink blending where I decide I'm going to do that. That's the centers of those little flowers cut from brown. And I'm going to start with the barrel and some ink blending here. I'm using a combination of gathered twigs and walnut stain for the brown. Starting off with the lighter brown here, the gathered twigs, I believe it is, and just going to blend on a little bit of the lighter brown here, just going a little bit darker on the edges, and then the center portion of the barrel, just a nice light color there of that brown. Then I'll go in with the walnut stain, I believe it is, and I'll just go ahead and use that same brush here and blend on some of that darker around the edges of the barrel. So this is just going to create a little bit of that shadowing effect around the edges, just to create a little more of a 3D or dimensional look on the barrel. And I'll do that with both of the pieces. You'll notice that I'm only really putting the majority of the color around the very edges of the back piece because most of that doesn't show. I'm taking a brown pencil here from my colored pencil stash, and these are just some Prisma colors. I'm not sure what color this is, but just sort of like a medium brown color. And I'm going through all of the little etched spots that the die created on the paper, and I'm just really trying to accentuate those little details on the barrel. I think it makes it just look a little more realistic, and I just really wanted to make those stand out a lot more. Again, just where that band is going to be on the barrel, I'm just going to go ahead and create a little bit of a shadow there as well with my colored pencil. So that's just going to really make those lines prominent. And I'll go ahead with the back and do the same thing here. You'll notice that the etched or embossed areas on this one are just basically on the top there. And that's because that's the only part really of the barrel for the back piece that's going to show up. So just going in and darkening those up a little bit, and I'll just go in now with my blending brush and just blend on a tiny little bit more color, but you can see how those fit together beautifully. And then that opening in the top is perfect for adding your apples. Now these are the 2 little bands. I cut the one from black and the other from a brushed gold cardstock from Spellbinders. And now I'm going to start to assemble the barrel. I will adhere the front piece to the back piece with some foam adhesive and just give it some dimension in that way. I wanted to make sure that there was some space between the front and back piece so that there's lots of space to put my apples into the barrel. So I'll just go ahead and line that up with the bottom. Super easy to line up the Lovely Layers. They're always very easy to assemble. And I'm just going to go ahead and use a little bit of liquid adhesive there on that black band, and then I'll adhere that gold over top. And it's cool because this little piece here has some really interesting etched details like little rivets, and it just looks very realistic. And I just like the look of the gold because I am going to do another little bit of gold accent there as well. So there's the finished barrel. I like how that looks. I just wanted to add a little bit more of sort of like an aged look to it using some black soot. I'll just go around the edges and add that black soot in. This is just a really great way to define the edge of your pieces and just bring it kind of all together. So just a little bit here with a fine detail brush, creating that outline. Now I'm going to add some aged mahogany to my little apples. I'm only going to show you the process here for one or possibly two. I think I only show you one apple because they're all the same. But I start off here with a little bit of aged mahogany around the edges, and then I go in and finish off with a little bit of black soot, creating that outline as well on the apple, similar to how I did that with the barrel. And you can just see how that looks pretty cool. And that's going to show up well when this is all assembled together. Now I'm just going to show you how I'm going to assemble the apples. I'll just take the little green stem and add that on with just a little dot of glue. And then I'll take two of the leaves and add those onto each of the apples as well. I wanted to just put a little bit of ink here onto the leaves. I'm using a tiny little bit of black soot, and I'm also using some aged mahogany on the leaves as well, just as a kind of a little bit of a reflection from the apples. And I'll go ahead and adhere that on to my apple. And I just kind of wanted to cluster the little leaves together. So I'm putting them, grouping them together instead of one on one side and one on the other. But you could literally do this however you wanted. And I just love that the little leaf dies are included in this set. I think it's genius. It does make it look very realistic and just gives you that little bit of extra opportunity to be creative with your apples. So the second leaf is a little bit smaller. I'm just going to add that next to the large leaf here. And I like the color of green that I chose because it's nice and bright, but you could choose whatever color of green cardstock. And again, you could also use white paper to die cut all of these pieces out and ink blend all of them. So that's the little finished leaf. I'm going to go in with a little bit of antique linen and add that to the center of each one of the little apple blossoms. And I'm going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive to the center of each of the blossoms. And then I'll go in with those little brown centers and add those into each one. And that just finishes these off really well. I love that the apple blossom dies are included in this set. It just allows, again, for more creativity and more options when you're creating your different projects. You could combine these apples with any of the different sets from Honeybee. Now, this is a really great 3D embossing folder. This is the Fall Leaves folder. It is amazing. I highly recommend this if you have not picked this up yet. It is going to coordinate with all the seasons of the year. It is beautiful. And it just creates the most gorgeous textured layer. I really wanted to keep this white for this project because I just thought the combination of the colors in the barrel will be really pretty laid over top of this really nice white, crisp, clean embossed paper. So I've sized this down 1/4 of an inch smaller than my A2 size card base. And that's just going to leave a little bit of a margin around the edge of my card. And I am going to adhere this onto an A2 top folding portrait card base. And I'll just take that and adhere it with some liquid adhesive and just center that onto the project. Sorry that my project is slightly out of frame here. I'm not sure why I was zoomed in so far, but I obviously forgot about that and should have had this pushed up on my desk a little bit. But I'm just taking my time to make sure that I get this centered. And then I'll just give it a really good press around all of the edges and in the center and make sure that it's really well adhered. Now I'm going to be using this gorgeous Heartfelt Hello sentiment set from the recent release from Honeybee. This is amazing. It could possibly be my favorite sentiment set of all time. I love the font. It is gorgeous. And of course it has a coordinating die set. So this is called the Heartfelt Hello set. And I will link up to everything that I'm using today in the description box below. So I've just stamped that out in black and die cut that out. And that's going to be my sentiment. So now I'm ready to assemble my barrel. Oh gosh, I love this barrel so much. It is just the most adorable little piece for your projects. And it can coordinate with so many other things that you have in your collection. So now I'm just going to start to add the apples into the barrel, and I'm going to pop these up on some foam adhesive just to make them a little bit more dimensional. And you'll notice that I have some of the leaves going to the left and some of them going to the right. And that's just going to help me balance off where my little apples are going to be placed here. And I'm just kind of kind of trying to decide how many apples I want to use in the barrel, because I'm thinking I would also like one just for at the bottom of the barrel as well, on the outside of the barrel. So I'm trying to make sure that I have one extra that I can use. And I actually did have a couple more die cut on my desk that I didn't ink blend or finish with the leaves, so I could always go back and finish those if I needed more, but I ended up making do with what I had, and I think it actually looks really good. So I'm going to have those 5 apples in the barrel, and I'm going to have this other apple just kind of down at the bottom with some apple blossoms. Now I did decide to use the Lovely Layers Autumn Bouquet die set to die cut out those little vines, those leaves at the bottom, out of the brushed gold cardstock as well. And I just thought that looked kind of nice to fill that area. You totally would not have to do that. It would have looked fine with that apple and those 2 blossoms as well. But I just wanted to add that little bit of extra gold. So I'm pretty happy with this composition. I'm just going to, play around with it a little bit more and then get everything adhered into place. I have used dimensional adhesive on that lower apple and the little blossoms as well. And I'm putting a tiny little bit of dimensional adhesive, foam adhesive, on one of the leaves in each of those leaf sprigs. That's my project today, friends. I hope you enjoyed. Please make sure to check the links to all of the products in the Honeybee Shop and the Honeybee Shop today. Have an amazing day, friends, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.